Okay, testing, make sure everything is good to go, and I think we can go ahead and get rolling. Hi everyone, my name is Rose, also known as TA Summers. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a short one. This is another book tag video. This is considered to be the romance reader tag. It was originally created by Bree Hill 9042, but I also saw this under Happy for Now's account, so I'm going to edit both of them in the spectrum of this video. So without further ado, we're just going to go ahead and begin and dive into it. I am a romance reader among many other genres in terms of things, so I thought it would be great to be able to do this tag and kind of give you some of my thoughts and my recommendations. So let's get into it. So the first question for this romance reader book tag would be, what is your romance origin story? In other words, how did you come to read your first romance novel? So I think my first romance novel, technically speaking, would probably be Pride and Prejudice. In terms of things, though, I can name several other books that I read from my mom's collection in terms of different book sales and things like that. And I'm pretty sure I read a number of the Harlequin titles that she picked up in terms of things, as well as other ones. But I think for the scope of this question, I'm going to say Pride and Prejudice. I read it early on. Y'all already probably know, I don't need to say it. I loved Elizabeth and Mr. Darcy in terms of things like, and that was my first Jane Austen novel. And I've read it. I loved it when I first read it. I've reread it many times, but it's been a little while since I picked it up. I can also tell you the first Black romance that I read. So originally I had done earlier this past year the 28 Days of Black Romance tag that was on Twitter, and I did a whole Twitter thread for it, and I originally wanted to upload a video to the channel for that, but unfortunately it was one of the videos that was lost due to my corrupted SD card. I still may try to see if I can refilm that particular video, but for the scope of this video, I'll make mention of the first Black romance that I read. It was one where I ended up picking it up because it was the basis for a movie that I was not allowed to watch at the time when I was younger. I had asked my parents and they basically were like, no, but I kind of got around it in terms of being able to pick up the Arabesque novel that it was based on, and it was A Private Affair by Donna Hill, and I'll put the original cover up for your reference. It was originally written in the 90s, and it was an Arabesque title. And I'll also put up the updated cover for your reference that I have. I have both versions of this, both in physical form and ebook form. And I haven't read it in a number of years, but I plan on being able to pick it up and revisit it for myself. But it led me into reading more books from Donna Hill, as well as more Arabesque titles as well. I do remember at the time that I liked it overall, but I'm curious to see what my impression of it would be in terms of the picking up now and seeing what my thoughts are. So question number 2, if you could be the heroine in a romance novel, who would be the author, and what's one trope that you'd insist be in the story? Oh, this is actually a really good question. So I could think of several romance authors I feel like could write a romance story about myself in terms of things. I'm a geekish book and gaming dork, if I could describe myself by day, and then by night I could transform into a lace and pearl princess. I kid you not, in terms of things. That's just kind of like how my vibe is in terms of things. And so if I were to choose an author who could write me like that, I would probably go with Alyssa Cole. And let's go with that, yeah. And as far as a trope that I would say is a must for me, since I gravitate towards sassy thieves with hearts of gold, aka Dimitri from Anastasia or Aladdin from Disney's Aladdin, let's go with the thief con man with a heart of gold who gets won over by a secret princess. And I think Alyssa Cole would be perfect for that in terms of things, especially with what she's done with the Reluctant Royal series. So let's go with that. Question number 3. What is a romance you've read this year that you want more people to read? Oh, this is a good one. I haven't read that much this year, but I would definitely recommend The Valentine's Do-Over by Michelle Lindo Rice. I thought that was very cute. I have yet to put up a review of it, but I definitely enjoyed it. I think it's as cute as the cover was for it, but I would definitely highly recommend that. Question number 4. What is your favorite romance subgenre, and what subgenre have you not read much from? Okay, so my favorite romance subgenre, I have too many to name in terms of things. I mean, I'll name a few, but unfortunately, I can't just name one. I would say that I tend to gravitate towards contemporary romance, sci-fi, fantasy, or fantasy romance, gothic romance, as well as romantic comedy. Romantic comedy in the vein of Jennifer Crusoe and authors like that, I would say. I tend to, I can't say that I know of any romance subgenre that I have not read much from in terms of things, because I like to read a wide variety. But if I had to choose one subgenre that I don't really read a lot from, I would say dark romance. And it's more of a preferential thing in terms of things. It's not that I'm opposed to reading dark romance, at least in terms of theory, but the ones that I picked up really just haven't worked for me, unfortunately. So I would say I can do horror romance, I can do erotic romance, but dark romance tends to be a specific genre that a lot of times, because of some of the triggering topics that they tend to touch base on, and the tones which feel more like they're not really romantic at all, it just doesn't feel to me that it really fits my vibe that much. But I'm willing to explore more of the genre and find things that, like, in terms of what works for me. So I'm willing to read more of it, but try to find things that work for me, but it's not something that I gravitate towards. Question number 5. Who is one of your auto-buy romance authors? I could name several here. That could almost be its own video in terms of things, but I would say, just to name a few, Christina C. Jones is an auto-buy author for me. I've talked about Christina C. Jones's work on the channel before. I love her, everything that I've picked up from her so far, so that's definitely one that I would gravitate towards. Miss Bev, aka Beverly Jenkins, I love her novels as well. I've been reading her for years, and she's definitely one of my auto-buy authors, and authors that I look forward to seeing new releases from. Some other ones, Alona Andrews is one that I've read for many years as well. Kristen Callahan is another that I've read for years. I love the Darkest London series, and she became an autobiography author for me. In terms of reading, after reading that particular series, I picked up several of her other novels as well. Lisa Kleypas is a comfort author for me in terms of things. I love her work, I love her writing, and a lot of her books, both historical and contemporary, have connected with me in the past. I also mentioned Megan Hart in one of my previous videos as well. In my bookshelf organization video, when I talked about my romance shelf, at least one of my romance shelves, I had a ton of Megan Hart's books, and I've read Megan Hart for years, and she's one of my all-time favorite authors, so she's definitely an auto-buy for me. But that's just some of the authors that are considered auto-buys for me. Question number 6. How do you typically find romance recommendations? So mostly these days, I usually either go by Goodreads or NetGalley, because I'm a Galley reader, as well as reading like different things like from Goodreads that I see others recommend or that I come across in terms of new book releases. Sometimes it may be that I just browse the shelf of my local libraries as well, like to find recommendations and reads as well. And BookTube also does help me out in terms of picking up titles that I may not be aware of or may not be on my radar. So those are just a few places where I tend to find romance recommendations for things. Question number 7. What is an upcoming romance release you're excited for? Okay, I can name 2 for this one. So the first one that I want to name is the Sapphic Bollywood story by Sophia Singh Sasan that's being released by Harlequin. It is called Tempted by the Bollywood Star. When I first saw that, I was like, oh, more of that, please. I think that's just like a really, I love the cover. I love the story seed and the plot bunny from the description alone. So definitely more of that, please. I'm definitely looking forward to when it releases in October. Another one that I will say that I'm looking forward to, really just based on the cover in terms of things, because I remember a lot of members of Romance Landia went crazy over the movie poster for, I believe it was called Cordelia, and this is the movie poster for your reference. It ended up being a very different movie than what everybody was expecting it to be, but a lot of romance authors saw that and saw that it had a lot of plot bunnies. Even I myself was inspired to write a work in progress story like over it, even though it's gothic romance. And I'm not going to talk too much about it because I don't know in terms of what I plan on doing with it just yet, but just FYI, that this poster was the plot bunny that launched a lot of different stories in Romance Landia of different ilks. And one of the stories that came out of that I'm excited to be able to read, and it also releases in October, is Sophie Jordan's The Duke Starts a Scandal, and this is the cover for it for your reference. But it should be interesting to see what Sophie Jordan did with this respective story, and if it has anything to do with either the Cordelia cover or the cover that we see for this particular romance novel. But we shall see. I'm looking forward to it. Question number 8. What is one misconception about romance that you would like to lay to rest? So I would say that for me, romance can be surprising in terms of the range in which it offers intimacy for its characters. And I'm not really just talking about physical intimacy, which is what a lot of people think of when they pick up a romance novel. Intimacy for characterization can be a range of different things in terms of things, whether it's emotional intimacy, whether it's just being able to see the connection between characters in a lot of subtle ways, like playful banter in the dialogue and investment in a certain topic or expertise by one or both of the characters in a romance novel. It can be even just getting you to think about something that you haven't necessarily seen a thought about or seen talked about in terms of things depicted in a romance novel. And usually I love those kinds of stories that give you an intimate look at the characters in terms of where they are mentally, emotionally, and being able to see the dynamic between different characters, whether it's in a romantic sense, whether it's in a platonic sense. I love that kind of dynamic that I see in romance novels in terms of things, like even in addition to the physical aspect. So I do want to clear up that particular misconception in terms of things. Romance can be showcase a dynamic of intimacy in a lot of different spectrums and ways. Question number 9. Who is the most recent romance reading content creator that you came across that you'd like to shout out? Not a recent one, but I'm going to mention Izzy from Happy for Now because I've followed her for a while. And since this is a video idea that I ended up getting from her, I'll give her a due shout out. Izzy, thank you for what you do. I love your content, and I just want to give you a shout out for this particular video and credit where credit's due. Question number 10. If someone had never read a romance novel before and asked you to recommend the first 3 romances that came to mind as places to start, what would those recommendations be? Oh, that's a very good question. And I feel like this is going to be slightly one-sided in terms of things because I read a lot of contemporary, so I'm just going to kind of go with that. But I read a range of romance titles in terms of things. And I feel like since this is a quick video, like I'll just make mention of the first ones that came to mind, though it may be that I expand upon this in a different video or in another video entirely in terms of recommendations and things like that. So the first one that I will say that I thought of to start with was Bet Me by Jennifer Cruzy. Classic, cute, contemporary rom-com. I love this book that centers a plus-size heroine who loves food and has a great connection to the main male character. It hits all of the beats of what I would consider to be an excellent romantic comedy. The second one that I'll mention is Behind the Scenes by Christina C. Jones. I've mentioned this as one of my all-time favorite books on the channel before. This is one that does very well with its contemporary aspects between two Black characters who are dealing with their very real life pressures and issues in a great way, and showcase a very well done sequence of romantic chemistry between the two leads, and I absolutely enjoyed that one. And then the third mention that I would say is, this is hard, but we're going to go with Kara McKenna's After Hours, which I think is an erotic romance that is done very, very well. I read it many years ago. Kara McKenna became one of my favorite romance authors from that particular book, and I love coming back to it. I have it on audiobook. I also read it as a galley from NetGalley, and I was not expecting to like it as much as I did going into it in terms of things. But McKenna's writing is very strong, and it depicts the chemistry between a nurse and her co-worker in terms of the dynamic that exists between them for things, and it stuck with me over the years. I would gladly read this again, and I would definitely recommend it. So that is it for this romance reader book tag video. Very quick, very short, and I really enjoyed being able to do this. Thank you to both Izzy from Happy for Now and also Bree Hill, who originally created the questions for this as well. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to be informed of when I post new videos. Thank you again for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next video.